Everybody, this is Jenny. We are now on my new channel called Reality TV Breakdown. This is where you'll see Vanderpump Rules, future Welcome to Plathville's, Seeking Sister Wives, and currently The Traitors. But today we're talking Vanderpump Rules. It was episode number 3. Let's go. Okay, every week I say I'm just going to do a really quick 15-minute recap. And then I sit here and I look and I end up with like 10 pages of notes. So I'm going to do the best I can to summarize and not make this too long. Oh, but these kids, I'm telling you, are so messed up. There's so much to say. So the show opens up, continuing where the last one left off. So it's still Sandoval's birthday party. And at his birthday party, James has now left, stormed off in a huff, like James of drunken old days, although he claims he's not drinking, really being irrational about his demanding an apology of his betrayal to him. I mean, let's face it, Sandoval needs to apologize to everyone. He really does. Every single person. And he needs to do it individually, and he needs to tailor it to how what his behaviors were in the last season affected them in particular, because each person was affected in a different way. Now, James was affected because Sandoval had the affair with James's ex-girlfriend. Of course, this all happened after James had broken up with her and he was already into another relationship with a girl who is considerably better than Raquel. But James sometimes is a immature drama queen. All right, so now Schwartz goes over to Sandoval, and Sandoval's like, oh, I'm telling you, it didn't go that well. So they sit down and talk, and Schwartz is like, well, what happened? Sandoval's like, he wanted this apology for a betrayal. And Schwartz looks at him and says, well, you should have said yes. Sandoval says when he did that shit with Kristen, and Schwartz right away interrupts him and goes, oh, no, oh, no. Oh, man. We're not bringing this up. You didn't bring that up from a decade ago, did you? And Sandoval's like, Schwartz, listen to me. Schwartz doesn't. Instead, Schwartz gives him advice. Schwartz is really good at giving advice, just not... I don't even say he's not good at taking it. I think if you give Schwartz advice, he's very introspective, open, willing to accept it. I think he takes it, and I think he actually takes it in and internalizes it. He just can't implement it. I don't know why. That extra step of actually doing what he needs to do, something's preventing him from doing that. That's something that a therapist has to figure out for him. I don't know, because it's a pattern his whole life. Because he's he's probably one of the smartest cast members on that show. He comes across like a dumb little puppy dog, but he's really smart. So it's not a lack of intelligence. And he seems empathetic for sure and open to opinions. That's part of his problem. He takes in everyone's opinions and tries to be a people pleaser. Anywho, Schwartz says to Sandoval, this is not the only time that somebody's going to be coming after you. And if that is how you're always going to respond, you're just going to have a miserable life. Yeah, Schwartz, preach. Sandoval, I can't remember. I didn't write this down. I think this was in a talking head. Or maybe he was talking to Schwartz. I can't remember. I think it was in a talking head, though. Sandoval said that he's upset that he hasn't heard from... No, actually, I think he was in the kitchen talking to somebody else at his birthday party. He was upset that Raquel hadn't called him that day on his birthday. So I'm guessing it's probably getting close to midnight now at the end of the night. And he probably knows that she can only have her phone for certain hours in the facility that she's in. And he said that she used to call him every couple of days, and she hasn't called him in a couple weeks, and she didn't call him on his birthday. So he's claiming his love for her. He's distraught. He doesn't understand. I am sure he's leaving her multiple messages on her voicemail every single day. She's probably overwhelmed by him at this point. I mean, think about it. Raquel is in a 100% sober environment, not California sober. She is getting completely clean and her mind is getting clean. Tom's mind, not clean. Still getting high every day. No brain-altering chemicals in her system and receiving healthy therapy every day. I am not surprised she is not contacting him. I think she's seen the light. Sandoval has said multiple times one of his favorite things that he did with her was getting high and getting drunk. That's what they did. That was their bond. Get high, get drunk, have sex. Like he's a 16-year-old boy. He's such a child. We cut to Sandoval going to Pump to visit with Lisa. He mentions to her again when she's like, how you doing? He's like, oh, I'm all beat up from the special forces thing. Like, oh, okay, Sandoval. They showed him at the party talking to lots of people about like, oh, my knees are all torn up. Oh, I'm all beat up. All right, get over it. Nobody cares. Lisa says to him that she cannot understand why he is still living in the house with Ariana and he should do the gentlemanly thing and leave. Are those not the exact words I had on? I'm pretty sure those are the exact words that I said. Could have been episode 1. I don't know, maybe episode 2. But I said Tom should do the gentlemanly thing and leave. After what he did to Ariana, and then he still lives in that house. I mean, Again, man-child. And then he goes on to complain to Lisa about how difficult his life is. Still the victim, still trying to garner sympathy from everybody, still taking zero accountability. So he's done complaining about how he's physically all beat up from the show. Now he's complaining about how difficult his life is. He said he tried to buy Ariana out of the house and she's getting no response from her or her lawyers, and that's frustrating. Then Ali died. I'll give him that one. That had to be a big stressor in his life. Then he goes on to say that Sheena reached out, and on the same day she reached out, she released a podcast saying that she believes years ago, or last year, or whenever they were all hanging out, that she believes Tom and Billy, who is his transgender friend, Billy, who was at his birthday party, that the two of them have hooked up in the past. That's what she thinks. I want some of you super sleuths out there. I don't have the time in my schedule, but I listened to that podcast from Sheena. It was after the whole blow up last year. Did she really release that on the same day that Ali died? It should not be that difficult to Google when did Ali die and then look up her podcast, because I remember the name of it was something sensational like that too. It was right after Scandal. Let me know. I just want to see if he's telling the truth here. Then he complains about a podcast she did with Nima. I saw that podcast too. And what was shocking me is that Tom Sandoval was saying how graphic and explicit it was. Nima had dated Raquel in the past, and he was sharing all kinds of intimate details about the relationship and how wrong and inappropriate it was. I don't remember that at all. So I'm convinced that's 100% a lie. I would remember if there were explicit details. My goodness. I think all he did was tell the truth. He mentioned that he was in Sheena's apartment once and she was trying to engage in intercourse with him. These are facts. There's nothing explicit. There was nothing explicit. It was just information about what happened. It has nothing to do with being explicit. Tom is all caught up in his feelings. This whole interview with Nima, I watched it all because I was interested. Because Nima used to be on Shaw's of Sunset. I didn't like him on Shaw's of Sunset. I was glad when he was no longer on the show. Kind of douchey, jerky kind of guy. But he worked in like creating videos and commercials and that kind of stuff. And he now lives in New York and he has his own business out there. He's doing fine. He left the reality TV world, which is good because he didn't come across well on it. But he has remained friends with Sheena. A lot of all those different shows become friends with each other, especially if they're all on Bravo, because they go to BravoCon or they meet at Watch What Happens Live, etc., etc. So Lisa's not really caring about any of this. She's trying to solve the problem for Tom Sandoval on how to get back in with his friends group, how to make amends for this horrible indiscretion that he made.
Here's a novel idea.
And Lisa comes out and says, why don't you apologize to your friends? And Tom says, because they'll just say to me, you don't mean it.
Come on, are you kidding me? Don't you think that's a little childish?
What a dumb... It sounds so elementary school. I just can't even... The things out of his mouth.
No, so why don't you point that out to them? Why don't you say, I'm truly sorry. Maybe I haven't handled it the best way I should.
Because they'll be like, oh, you don't mean it.
That's what they always say.
I'm not going to do the right thing, the noble thing, the proper thing, because I'm projecting how they're going to react back to me, and I don't like that reaction, so I'm not even going to do the right thing. What kind of thinking is that? It's very interesting watching Sandoval, because in this meeting with Lisa, he gets angrier and angrier. He starts literally raising his voice to the point of like yelling. I wrote down here, at one point Lisa tells him to stop yelling, and he starts yelling louder. He's so defensive.
I just want to move on.
But do you want to move on without all these people? Or do you want to have a relationship?
I don't want...
Okay, let's break it down. Stop being so
Lisa,
angry.
Because you're attacking me.
I'm not attacking
This is
you.
my
I'm
life.
trying to help
This
you.
is my life.
I know it's your life.
This gets even better. I wrote here, he has not an iota of remorse or understanding for others. The very next thing that Lisa says is, Tom, you have to have some remorse, have some sensitivity. I was like, yeah, I just wrote that. Lisa and I were on the same wavelength. We're both seniors. She's older than me, but she looks way better.
Have some remorse. Have some sensitivity.
We find out at this time that Lisa privately called Sandoval after the reunion because she was concerned about him. Now, we know from last year, I think it was last season, was it the season before? Lisa's brother, her only sibling, took his life. And it was very, very obviously traumatic for her. So she was concerned about Tom Sandoval after all the backlash during the reunion last year, if you saw it. So she called him up and she said, I'm worried about you. I want to make sure you're okay. If you ever feel dark or have feelings of doing any harm to yourself, I want you to reach out and call me first. And he's like, oh, I will. And she said, promise me. Promise me. You know what I've been through. I need you to promise me. And she did admit later on that her brother had admitted to her that he'd been having some like dark thoughts and dark feelings prior to him taking his life. And she will forever beat herself up over that she didn't just go over and fly over to London, England and get him into treatment or, talk to him, whatever. Not her fault at all, but that's what survivors do. They blame themselves. So she's very concerned that this was going to happen with Tom. And he's like, no. And then he said, Lisa, that's not me. He said, I'm not that person. And she said, okay, I just want you to know. Promise me. And he said, I promise you. Now, we're on camera. And he starts telling her, I've had these dark thoughts and I've been thinking about taking my life, et cetera, et cetera. And she got very concerned. She's like, Tom, you promised me. And he's like,
If I say I'm sorry and I cry, crocodile tears.
Okay,
I battled with suicide.
No.
Don't tell me what I felt.
Listen, I do not want to mess around with mental health. And I don't want to, when it comes to mental health, claim I know what's in somebody's mind and not in somebody's mind. But the fact that he was so adamant that he was okay before and that he said he absolutely promised her he'd call her, and now he's telling her, I had all these thoughts. And she's like, well, what happened to the promise? Why didn't you call me? And I think he kind of got like, oh, right. Forgot about that part. The story isn't working that well. I think he's just trying to garner sympathy. I hate to say it. I really do. Because it's a terrible thing to say, because it's a terrible thing to do if it's true. What makes it doubly bad is that this is now triggering Lisa. And it's bringing up all those feelings about her brother's suicide. Like, it's a double whammy. On top of him looking douchey for claiming something that may or may not be true, he's really affecting Lisa right now. I wrote here when I was taking notes, what's my take? He never called because he never had those thoughts. He's now attempting to garner sympathy with the viewers, and it's so sick. That was my impressions watching it. Ugh. I feel gross talking about this. I'm starting to sweat. We have to move on. Lisa says, well, do you think that you can be friends with Sheena again? And he yells at her, I don't know. She goes, well, can you be friends with anybody? He yells louder, I don't know, Lisa. Jeez. Lisa goes on to perfectly state how he needs to rebuild relationships.
The only way you can repair it is with utter sensitivity and contrition. Do you understand that? Just say yes, you understand that without fighting me.
I understand that.
Utter sensitivity and contrition. Impossibility. He might be able to act it. I don't think he'll be able to feel it. Hey, you're halfway through. If you do me a huge favor, just hit the subscribe button and the like button. That's it. It's completely free, costs you nothing, and I'd really appreciate it. And if you leave me a comment, I guarantee I read all of them. All right, let's continue on with the review. Lala and Ariana are now out shopping, and Lala mentions that they're getting ready for See You next Tuesday that night, and she mentions that she enjoys watching James DJ when he's sober. She thinks he's a much better DJ sober. And they both talk about how they both want to help James, and they both want to tell James, keep on this path. And Lala wants to say, come to an AA meeting with me. But they don't, because they know that James has to be the one to reach out. And Lala would know best. I mean, she's been how many years? 4 or 5 years she's been sober. And she's been faithfully attending her meetings, has a great sponsor. She knows the ropes. So I trust her when she says, I can't tell him, come to a meeting with me, come to a meeting with me. He has to reach out to me. I can't see James doing that. He loves to party so much. I'm scared it's going to have to take something tragic in his life to get him to completely be sober for any significant period of time. We have Katie and Sheena together. I just wrote down that Katie is going to go on a date with a guy, not in Sheena's band, but a band that Sheena connected with that did the music as she did the remix of Good as Gold. So Katie's going to date the guitarist in there. That's fine, whatever. Sheena apologizes to Katie again. Oh, if I had $1 for every time Sheena apologized to Katie, honestly. This time it was for inviting Schwartz to emo night the other night, because then it was awkward when he was there because he came from Sandoval's and he said he felt bad leaving there, and so she thought that just kind of ruined the vibe of everything, and she wished she would have just not invited him. But she felt bad that he would be the only one left out. But he wouldn't be the only one left out because Sandoval was left out. The two of them could have just been at Sandoval's birthday party all night. I don't know if she knew the birthday party was that night when she invited Schwartz or not. We cut to the next day where Schwartz is taking his dogs for grooming at Vanderpump Dogs. He shares with Lisa that he got bad news about his brother. And this is the first time that I'm getting information, because I'm not following all the Vanderpump podcasts and all that. I've been kind of doing more deep diving into Sister Wives lately. Last year I was really into Vanderpump Rules heavily and watching all the vlogs and listening to all the podcasts, etc., etc. I'm not as up on it right now. So when he had a brother that was really sick, I didn't know why he was really sick. Well, apparently he's an alcoholic. And he got really sick. I mean, I don't know what really happened, but Tom had gotten him into a rehab facility. So from the rehab facility, the night before, they actually sent him to the hospital. That he has cirrhosis of the liver. He seems so young to have cirrhosis of the liver. He's Tom's younger brother. He had to have been pounding drinks really hard. According to Tom Schwartz, his brother used to be a ray of sunshine, and then one day he got jumped outside of a bar. And from that day on, he hasn't been the same. That he's been drinking heavily and relying on alcohol. Very sad that a tragedy like that, getting jumped by something, would trigger another tragic lifestyle that is now leading to another tragedy, alcoholism, and now in the hospital with a severe disease. While they're talking, Lisa shares how she's concerned about Tom Sandoval because he mentioned that he's in a dark place. And Schwartz said, yeah, I heard that too. I'm surprised he never said anything to me. But I heard it from other people. Well, what other people are closer than Tom Schwartz? Again, this fits in with my narrative that I'm not buying it. I think it's a way to garner sympathy. I feel like if he was really feeling like that, he would have reached out to his best friend. Again, let's move on from that topic because it makes me uneasy to talk about because I don't have the facts. But I'm just relaying what I'm seeing on the screen. We cut to Sir in the evening for See You Next Tuesday. The group is all together. I apologize. Schwartz comes and sits down with them, and Lala's like, oh, did somebody invite you here, or did you just invite yourself? Such a Lala thing to say. And Schwartz is like, yeah, I invited myself. He said, I haven't been to one of these Tuesday nights. For the last 4 I've canceled and I felt bad, so I'm coming to this one to support James. He then gives some herbal supplements to Lala, and Schwartz says that it's something that he's been using and trying, and the name of these herbal supplements are called Sober Curious.
Huh?
It's like something you take as you're trying to be sober. I don't know. Sober Curious. The terms this new generation creates to justify their behavior. Are you gonna be sober or are you not gonna be sober? That's really the end. No, I'm gonna be sober curious. I'm California sober. It's ridiculous. It's just justifying your behavior. You gonna be sober or not? Yes or no? Oh, no. But you're gonna call it something cute. Make yourself feel better. Grow up. When Schwartz was talking to Lisa Vanderpump, she mentioned that she was going to Lake Tahoe, where she was opening a new restaurant. I guess she had like a big chalet or house or something, and so Schwartz kind of invited himself, but I'm sure that production told him to. And Lisa's like, of course you can. And she said, bring everybody. There's room for everybody there. So he said to the whole group. So first of all, he talked to James. He said later on, his plan was to talk to each person one-on-one. But then
Good plan.
he just threw the plan out the window.
A dumb idea?
It started off good. He talked to James first and said, listen, I talked to Lisa. She mentioned I could bring everybody. What do you think about it? Because I'm also inviting Sandoval. Like, I'm literally inviting our whole group. Is that okay with you? And I will say that James acted like he probably wasn't smoking anything that night or taking any edibles, because he was very level-headed. And he's like, listen, dude, I have to get over it. I can't live in my anger for him. So yeah, fine. It's fine. And he ends up going to the whole group and bringing it up, which ended up just being a firing squad, starting with Ariana, who could not let it go. She was downright mean to him. I'm really pro team Ariana. I am. Didn't like her. I did not like her. I didn't like her attitude. She didn't have to be so mean to him. He never did anything wrong, really. It's still unclear exactly how much he knew about the Raquel thing, and his error of omission in terms of not telling her about what was going on, although it really wasn't his place because he wasn't like best friends with her. He was best friends with Tom, who was the one having the affair. It's a messy situation. So I get that she's mad at him. I get that she's holding it over him and that she's like, we can't be close friends. But she goes in hard at Schwartz personally. She calls him a lost cause and all kinds of things. That wasn't necessary. She still has a lot of healing she needs to do. I mean, it's only been 3 or 4 months, understandably. But she's taking it out on the wrong person. She needs to be taking this out on Sandoval, who she's not even speaking to. And who, according to Sandoval, she's not saying anything to him at all. She's not taking any vitriol on him. He's like, everyone in the world is shooting daggers at me, saying the worst things about me, to me. But Ariana is saying nothing. And she's the one I did this to. At the end, Sheena's on the way to the bathroom and she passes Tom's table and he asks if he can talk to her. And she's like, yeah, not in here. We can talk out in the back alley. So they go in the standard back alley from back in the old days, like 10 seasons ago. And that's where all the episodes were shot because everybody worked in SUR. Oh, remember those days? Those were good episodes. Anyway, they go sit outside in the alley. Tom compliments Sheena on her look and her sunglasses. She compliments him on his sweater. He mentions that the sweater was Ali's and that he found it in Ali's bedroom. Sheena says that she's upset that she reached out to him after Ali's death and his response was blocking her. And Tom, in response, says something different than what he told Lisa. He told Lisa that it was the exact same day as her podcast being dropped, but he didn't say that. That I could understand. Like, oh, you're reaching out to me, and yet on the same day, you release something that's negative about me. And then that hurt me, and so I couldn't trust you. That's what he told Lisa. He tells Sheena a different story. Sheena has another great statement, the statement that we're all saying collectively around the world. She said, don't you think that if you would have been remorseful at the beginning, it would have been a different outcome? Yeah. Tom admits, he says, yes, I handled it like, sure. Tom goes on to say, I can't do anything about the past. Oh, what a cop-out line that is. act like an ass, do something right. It's like somebody shooting and murdering people and then going, oh, sorry, I mean, get over it, will you? I can't do anything about the past. Let's just move on. I feel bad. It's the same thing. It's not the same crime, but this is Tom's warped thinking. I can't change the past. I don't understand why people are so upset about this. Sheena reiterates, you can apologize and be remorseful. You don't have to keep doubling down. Sheena points out that his behavior is not coming across remorseful at all because he's continuing to go with Tom and the Extras band on the road and changing the lyrics of his song to include Schwartz and Raquel, how much he's in love with Raquel and how much he's upset with Schwartz. I can't remember the exact thing, but maybe I'll include the clip here.
Singing about Schwartz losing his house and Raquel is hot for me. Someone needs to tell him to put the mic down.
But the best part of the whole episode came at the end because Sheena calls him out as a narcissist. And this is how the exchange went down.
Everything you're doing is literally the definition of a narcissist.
It's not. You should look it up.
A narcissist is never going to admit they're a narcissist.
Yeah, I know. That's why Lala won't say she is.
Well, she's not, and that's offensive. I need to get home.
And that is what a narcissist would say. And in true classic narcissist form, he agrees and says that's why Lala will never admit that she's a narcissist. What does Lala have to do with any of this? Oh my gosh. Listen, I am deep diving into Sister Wives. I've been following Cody Brown for 18 seasons. I never missed an episode. I have been watching narcissistic behavior, and I feel like I have a master's level degree in it. But I will say, Tom Schwartz rivals him in terms of his behavior. Unbelievable, that's the worst. That's all I have for this week. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you. I appreciate you. I'll see you with a recap for episode 4 next week. You take care. Have a great day. Bye.